Hey, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Kathy Latta. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing for the HR Certification Institute. We're the largest HR certification body in the world. We've got 500,000 certificants in 100 countries, and I'm really happy to join you today. I've been with HRCI in my role since about April of this year, so just about 6 months. And I have 20 years of experience in marketing, mostly in the nonprofit sector, but also the private sector.
Thank you. And then Jill.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Jill Adams. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Mr. Car Wash. We are North America's largest conveyor belt car wash operator. I've been with Mr. for just a little over a year. Prior to that, spent the bulk of my career in the restaurant industry and bring over 20 years of experience in the marketing space. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Ryan.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for everyone in attendance. My name is Ryan Hawley. I'm the Senior Digital Marketing Manager at Lambia Performance Nutrition. We are the manufacturer of some of the world's largest performance nutrition brands like Optimum Nutrition, SlimFast, ISOPure, and BSN. And I oversee all of our paid digital media with the assistance of Mr. Kagan himself. And I also manage our direct-to-consumer websites.
Thank you very much. So just a quick heads up, while I'm not sure how the policies are in operating around the world, in the U.S., we are largely still remote because the virus is still pretty abundantly clear, so there's very limited office. So what you'll notice is, and it's also early in the morning for us, you'll notice that we are all still working from our homes. Feel free to rate and just blatantly judge our backgrounds and what is behind us. As you can see, Jill and Kathy have nice professional settings. My office looks like a prison cell, and Ryan appears to be in his bedroom. At least he made his bed. So, shall we dig in? So,
no digital background.
No digital background. Unfortunately, the Zoom jail cell scene actually looks like my office, so it's depressing. But needless to say. So the title of our session is a little misleading because honestly, I really struggled to come up with a good name for the title. Here is our reality. Those who operate in paid search, especially those in Central and Western Europe, because you end up getting experimented on by Google and Microsoft before we do, have probably discovered that there's been a gradual shift to keyword list search-based capabilities. From local search, local service ads, product listing ads, or shopping, if you will. Discovery, the GDN is getting away from keyword. YouTube is getting away from keyword. Bing is getting away from keyword. Yelp, I don't know how big it is over abroad, but domestically it's fairly large, is almost solely keywordless. So as we look at this and we say, all right, does the keyword matter? And it still does exist in some degree, but what matters more now is the audience. So that's kind of me trying to explain. The title of the session itself is what matters more, or how do you work with it? Do you focus on the keyword? Do you focus on the creative, or do you focus on the audience? And what you're going to go listen to is a little bit of my own conspiracy theory within this industry, but it's probably the most healthy conspiracy theory you're going to hear this week, about our future and how we work it and how we operate. So I have a little note here, and I'm going to recite it for you just because I did the work to make this out. So, as mentioned, when I got into this space 16 years ago, we couldn't even target by device. It was your geography, and it pretty much stopped there. And my only other form of targeting was the keyword base. There was also contextual. So anyone that remembers the good old days of Google AdWords when you still content search, there was also the contextual. But now I look at it day and day and day, things have changed. At least within the North American operations, we can do device, geography, age, gender, household education. Do you own a car? Are you leasing a house? Did you just have a baby? The levels of targeting capability, just from the surface level, are 25 to 100x what we had years back. And it's making our capabilities more marketable. And that's just a start for the preset audiences that are given to us. After that, you start looking at our remarketing capabilities. I can safely tell you, working on accounts on Jill, Ryan, and Kathy's lines of business over the years, I've probably created no less than 1,000 different audiences based off on-site behavior of individuals on their websites, and then use those as targeting lists, remarketing lists. And my favorite thing is when they become lookalike audiences. So we've become more and more reliant on this for keyword and non-keyword lists. The next thing we have to look at is when we look through the pandemic, the one form of media besides YouTube that never declined for anyone in the U.S. was search. Search just continued to grow. What we did see is a shift in behavior from more mobile, and that started to reduce down to more desktop search. But search never dropped off. And then we start seeing this further and further push. Anyone that was on the Google Marketing live stream event probably saw Performance Max heavily tested in Europe, slowly being adopted in the U.S. And we've always seen, hey, you should go into smart bidding, yada, 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 where my own conspiracy theory believes either Google is trying to get rid of the keyword outright, and ultimately my job so that we can give Google all our money to do that. But odds are someone from Google is listening in on this session, I'm going to get an ugly phone call in about an hour. But that's what we are starting to see. I'm glad at least someone on my panel is laughing because I can't see the audience, who I assume is laughing hysterically at this point. As we see this continue to move to the loss of the keyword, there is the belief that we lose a degree of control. We can no longer say, all right, I only want to trigger for this keyword. I only want to trigger for this, but I don't want to trigger for that. It becomes a lot harder. Yes, we have to go heavy up on our negative keywords, but we lose that ability. I believe a lot of us saw that when we saw the loss of the broad match modified capability this past summer. So that now we're back to only 3 traditional mad types, exact, phrase, and broad. And that phrase is very loosey-goosey at this point. So we're starting to lose more and more control. So we have to face the reality of the true levers that we can still control as advertisers most consistently. Ad copy, although that is kind of limited if you're running RSAs, BSAs, or DKI, or if you're running a smart campaign, and audiences. Audiences is still the most widely used form of control across all search that we can still do. And it's worked for both keyword lists and non-keyword lists, display, search, what have you. And then from the last of the keyword list programs, we also have to sit here and say, all right, if all I can control is a little bit of the ad copy and the audiences, do I just focus my energy and my time on that? Or do I go full blown and go over Google, Bing, and Yelp and say, hey, do your smart bidding, do your special automation, have at it, I'll give you full control. I, as an ad agency, that is my living nightmare. Some small, medium advertisers might find that it's going to save them on bandwidth and time and overhead. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But as large enterprise operations, working with large enterprise operations, we realize that the human is still needed to step in on these scenarios. And this is where we talk about how we step in, what we do to control it. So with that quick, not even quick, with that long-winded synopsis, we're going to go in and kind of share our opinions about it between our business and each other's business. So I'm going to dig in first on the first one. I'm going to ask the group this. Same question for everyone. I'll start with you, Kathy. How do you view the need for an audience segmentation on search? Do you view it as necessary? How do you view it? What is your thought process around it?
Sure. Yeah, we definitely think search is important. We service people that have a little bit of experience in the HR field, all the way to people with 20 plus years of experience. So we have to use different segments to sort out those who maybe don't have the right experience to apply for an exam. We have 8 different human resource certification exams, and you have specific education and experience requirements for each. So for us, search and using negative search terms also is very important. With the entry-level exam has no requirements. It's entry-level, it's entirely knowledge-based, but the senior level exam requires 4 to 7 years of experience plus education. So to us, using these segments is really important. Otherwise, we would be wasting our limited ad dollar. We're not a huge organization, so every dollar counts.
So just, Kathy, for reference that, so what you're saying is you have multiple different audiences that you focus on that are probably searching for the same keywords, but you aren't trying to target each one the same way.
Correct. Yes. Thank you for that.
Makes complete sense. All right, Jill, what about your thoughts?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, right, the target audience for a car wash, it's pretty broad. If you own a car, at some point you're going to need a car wash. But that's not really where our primary focus is. Our primary focus is more around attracting customers for, we have a subscription-based program. It's an unlimited wash club where a member can wash as often as they like for one monthly fee. So for this group, it's really critical that we actually are layering in some of those audience segments, household income, age, important for us, but also some lifestyle interest and, maybe some unconventional lifestyle interests like sports and music, where we see a correlation with our membership program, as well as layering in a little bit of lookalike audience. So for us, audience segmentation is a critical component to make our campaigns more efficient.
Excellent. So net, what you're saying, kind of similar to Kathy. So one audience may qualify for both segments, but both audiences may not qualify for one segment of your kinds of business when it comes to a car wash. Kind of the one and done versus I'm going to become a loyalist scenario.
Absolutely. They're two very different customer bases.
Makes sense. Ryan.
Yeah, so we're actually the leader in our space, but a lot of our potential customers look usually for the cheapest price product. And what they'll find, that's just not us or really who we want to target. We actually look for those who are actually pursuing our direct competitors or customers who are more educated in the sports nutrition field about their sports nutrition needs. So we love the concept of audience segmentation on search, but it needs to be overlaid with a proper keyword strategy or the potential for overspend increases dramatically.
Excellent. So net, and just having known your business, basically there's you with your sister brands, you sell very similar, if not the same products. It's just marketed from one goes to the other. So you kind of focus on in-market, enthusiast, experience versus novice scenario to serve a similar or the same product, but just in different groups.
Yeah, a lot of our brands sell very similar products, but obviously they're targeted to specific audiences. So we need to overlay those audiences in our keyword strategies.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear, especially because I'm the one that's doing it. But
Right.
We're all going to pretend to be surprised here. It's early in the morning. So my stance is I've pretty much overlaid and voiced my opinion and forced it upon everyone here because that's how I rule as just a complete brute. The way I look at it is, I don't know how big it is abroad, but if anyone internationally has ever seen the movie Mean Girls within the U.S., we literally take the stance of you can't sit with us. Not necessarily everyone that is looking for my business or looking for my car or a product or my item or the food that I'm selling online is worth me spending that dollar on. I used this example years ago with a very high-end car brand who has repeatedly told me not to say their brand under threat of lawsuit. Basically, it's a car that it costs in excess of $200,000. They serve their ad to anyone that wants to search for it. The problem is the 18-year-old with no college education that has a household income of less than $50,000 is being served the same ad as the top 1% of household income CEO individual. Only one of them can afford to buy that car, but they're still paying money for both individuals to have it. And it's just not worth it because the reality is our buckets of money are not bottomless. We have a cap, and at some point it doesn't make fiscal sense for us anymore. So we literally have to sit here and decide who can see our ad and who is going to see which one of our ads. So hopping into the next part of it, and this is where I kind of look. We still currently have the option of keyword search in most entities. Your regular text-based. After that, it gets kind of dicey, but text-based search. Are you in favor of moving to it and sticking with that, or are you okay in moving to the keyword list search? Do you have a preference? The question is, do you really like keyword list search, or are you kind of indifferent and you're fine with going to keyword-based? Or I'm sorry, everyone loves keyword search. That's just the blanket statement. The question is, are you comfortable enough with moving to a keyword list-based scenario where you have less control, but you just focus on the audience that you believe that's fine and that's all you need to focus on? Or are you trying to hold on to control as long as you can with that one? So I'm going to start with you, Ryan.
Yeah, I guess when it comes to like shopping campaigns, I'm totally fine going with a keyword list strategy. But for search specific, I don't think we're really there yet. I can't say that I'm overly excited to hand over control to the engines to make the decisions for us, because who knows better about our customers than ourselves. It's too early to know if it's actually triggering appropriately and targeting the right audience. And we've also been burned far too many times by search automation. So I think I'm just going to need to see some of the results before I can honestly say that I'm okay with these types of changes.
Makes sense. I mean, when it comes to e-com base, your limitations are, well, they're incredibly limited. You have to say at least 50% of your business has to be keywordless because Google just doesn't allow it. That's
Right.
a reality. But when you start looking at the other parts and really whether or not you're doing product branding and product detail or awareness, but it sounds like you begrudgingly move into it because you don't really have much choice in the matter.
Yeah, that's correct. I'll a lot of engines, when you turn on those automations, like to target and trigger those branded keywords, and it's not really expanding our audience for us. So we try to stay away from those a little bit. But if we're unable to negatively target those branded keywords, what's stopping the engines from racking them up, right?
Exactly. All right. Jill, what about your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so just for context for the group, we're running right now a pretty heavy dose of keywordless advertising within our marketing mix, in particular across local search, leveraging Yelp. But beyond that, in general, I really agree with what Ryan had to share, that for general search, keywords are critically important, especially given just how broad our target audience is for our car wash. Without the use of the keyword, we lose control, we lose a bit of transparency. But I think for us, the concern comes in of our campaigns are just going to be a little less efficient. So agree with Ryan. It's a little too early to tell if that would actually be the end result. But where it stands right now, we are not a fan of removing the keyword from our search strategy.
And I mean, I find what's most interesting with you is you are probably most poised to work with the least amount of keywords between your operations with Yelp, local search ads, local service ads to a degree. You theoretically could completely operate without it. Yes, you could just opt into the smart campaigns for regular search as well. But what I'm hearing is you're just, all right, we could do it, but it's not not something that I'm going to leap to enjoy, go after.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Could we do it? Yes. Do we think it's the right move for our strategy? No.
How about you, Kathy?
Yeah, so to provide a little bit of context here as well, our product is certification of your HR knowledge and experience. So it can take from 1 to 12 months of studying. So just all that goes to say, this is not a typical consumer product sale where you can just cart something, sometimes on impulse. So we need to continually ensure that we're in front of our audience, and we do so with paid keyword search and our audience targeting. Our needs are really heavily niched. So when we talk about HR, a lot of people are searching for things like HR jobs or HR degree programs in school. And so we need the ability to exclude those from our paid search so that we're not taking up our dollar with adjacent searches that are not relevant to our audience. So that's why audience targeting is really important. We have branded keywords and sometimes target our largest competitor in our keywords as well.
I mean, the reality is for you, and you are the one that could operate solely on keyword. You wouldn't need to ever go keywordless if you didn't have the choice. Because you aren't operating technically as e-commerce for shopping. You don't have brick and mortar for you. You don't need Yelp. You don't need local. So you're actually in a spot where you could be the most affected if the keyword sense goes away, which is one of the reasons I believe you're focusing on audience segmentation so incredibly hard, deeply on that one. I can give my own stance on this. I'm incredibly biased, and I believe I've kind of laid it out. I believe in the keyword capability as much as possible. I've been an advocate for bringing keywords to keywordless functions that never had keywords. I can't tell you how excited we were when shopping first came around and we wanted keywords as a capability and sat there dumbfounded that realized we had to control our product feed to make it happen. So I sit on the fence of as much as control as humanly possible, because more control means more insights and more data. More insights and more data means I don't have a brand safety issue, or I end up on embarrassing websites later on. That's my stance for that one. But that's enough of my rhetoric and propaganda. We'll keep talking on this one. So, as the program, there are still programs, still more than 50% of searches still can be done with keywords as long as you're not operating with a smart one. But the reality is, search is the only form of digital media that's considered reactive, and that's in the sense that display, social, online video, you may not be actively looking for that product, but that ad will be served to you whether you want to or not. But when it comes to paid search, someone has to raise their hand and say, I'm looking for this information. I want to know more. What can I learn about this? And because of that, search operates as reactive. So the question is, do we even need to worry about audiences on a reactive form media? Do we need to take keyword as program and then put audience segmentation and targeting on it? Does it make sense? Or is it a level of overkill that may reduce our audience down to a smaller audience and maybe less valuable? It's something that I constantly rack my brain on and keeps me up at night along with my dog barking. But everyone else kind of has a different angle on this. So Jill, how about you?
Sure. And, I don't think anyone at the conference will be surprised with my response. But yes, having an audience strategy that complements a keyword strategy really is what we found to be the sweet spot for us. So while it's true, if you own a car, you're going to need a car wash. And in those instances, we want the general population who's searching for us to be able to find us. But as I mentioned earlier, really for that frequent customer, that frequent car washer, that would be a prime candidate for a subscription program. It's really critical that we have the ability to segment that advertising, in particular the messaging. If someone is familiar with Mr. Car Wash, we're not going to serve them up locations. We're not going to serve them up information about our company. Instead, we want to target that messaging toward the benefits of our subscription-based unlimited wash club program and why this would be a great membership for them. So just recognizing different audiences need different messages. And that's why for us, it's important to layer in those audience segments into our search campaigns.
Makes sense. Not everyone is qualified for each offer, but they're all going to search the same keywords kind of mentality. Makes sense. Kathy, how about you?
Sure. At our site, hrci.org, we have a lot of repeat visitors. We have 8 different certifications, but the combination of education and experience for each one of those certificates is a little bit different. So our entry-level certification is the APHR, or the Associate Professional in Human Resources certification. We actually don't even need a high school degree. You just need to get a certain level of experience out in the field, professional experience in HR. Whereas our PHR, our Professional Human Resources, and our SPHR, the Senior Professional in Human Resources, require anywhere from 4 to 7 years of experience and some education. But all the search terms that we find are the same, so we have to isolate the audiences to serve them the particular certification that they are most likely qualified for.
I mean, and this is literally from a conversation you and I were having this past week, kind of scenario where we finally started saying, you know what, the SPHR, we are going to see to it that we exclude those that have stopped at a high school diploma or are under the age of 25, because they literally would never qualify for SPHR. Just so that we can refine our audiences on that and save us a few dollars here and there kind of scenario.
Exactly. Yep.
How about you, Ryan?
I guess I agree with everyone that's already spoken. When you have the option of getting more control over who's seeing your ads, I'm pretty sure all of us would choose, yes, we would love to, be able to target them a little bit more granular. And our products are for customers who are trying to improve their fitness. So a lot of the times, a beginner customer is going to come into our category looking for something as basic as how to lose weight or best protein shake, and that's going to yield a ton of results. And we'll end up targeting a very wide audience. So anytime we can overlay more, I guess, of an audience target that we want to focus on, we're going to choose that option because we want to be able to pick and choose who's seeing our ads, because we, like we said before, we have a house of brands. We're trying to market many different brands that are selling very similar products. So each product hopefully is designed for a specific audience and a specific customer. So if we can target those customers for each individual brand, of course, we're going to choose to do that.
I mean, Ryan, especially when it comes to your products, you have products for the whole gamut of experience and enthusiasm in the fitness world. So you know that like your baseline protein shake versus your high level protein shake, one's ultimately meant for the novice or first coming into the space. The other one is meant for that enthusiast, bodybuilder, pro athlete, college athlete grade person. So you want to target them separately when you serve that ultimately.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, one thing just in general is we talk about the degree of targeting and the importance of targeting, especially on search and overlaying it. One thing that we have failed to mention because I forgot to bring it up to the group, so I'm going to just bring it up here because we do it extensively across all of their brands as well as all of our other clients. Audiences can also be used to exclude. I could be wanting to cast a really, really wide net of targeting, and that's fine. But I also say, you know what, this individual, the people that have taken this type of action, or the people that fall into this qualification are the lone group that I do not want to be serving my ad to. So just as importantly as targeting an individual or at least observing their behavior that falls into a certain audience segment, we are also big on taking that and excluding certain individuals. That way we don't lose as wide of a net of targeting when necessary, but we make sure we are targeting by excluding certain individuals. It goes the same way as your good old negative keywords mentality. So let's kind of go on. So keywordless search. There's good and there's bad. There's reason for concern. There's reason to enjoy it. I have a host of what can only be disguised as rhetoric and propaganda in each direction of this one. But I'm not the only one here. So I kind of want to see how our panelists feel about the pros, cons, and if they have any concerns when we look at a keywordless search program. So Kathy, I'll start with you.
Sure. With keywordless search, it can definitely be used to speed up the day-to-day management of your campaigns. It's actually something that I used. I was the director of business development for a group of social enterprises run by a small church, and one of those businesses was a cafe. So we used a lot of Yelp advertising, Yelp is an online review site in the United States. I'm not sure if they're global, so I just wanted to explain that. So we did a lot of keywordless search there simply because we didn't have the time or the money to focus on doing anything more in depth. So it was a time saver. But for me here at HRCI, my biggest driver of success here is when I have the control over the keywords. So it's really important to have that control. And we would not be trusting our entire search program to just the keywordless for all the reasons that I stated earlier and that were stated earlier.
So I mean, net, there's good, there's bad. It sounds like you're not keen on it, but you can understand where it can serve a purpose ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've been in both situations with a small organization. We had, maybe 5 staff and a budget for the entire organization of less than $500,000. So that it made more sense to go that route. But in my current operation, it doesn't make sense.
Makes sense. Or I mean, does what you're saying? Yeah. Ryan, how about you?
I guess everyone wants automation and saves time, and who wouldn't want something to just flip a switch and turn it on and have it work properly? But I think anyone who's seen the Terminator knows that once you flip Skynet on, you don't know what's going to happen, right? The robots take over, and they can either optimize my campaigns efficiently, or they can optimize my campaigns to make themselves more money. And in that scenario, I'm just basically signing over a blank check and, praying that it works. I know search engines have all the data and they always tell you how sophisticated they are, but without, some type of human oversight or being able to turn Skynet off, I think it's foolish for us to jump in and say, just take my money and do this for me.
Please, Ryan, tell me you know that Skynet's not a real thing, right?
It's actually a real thing. It actually came out and launched over Skynet. It doesn't function obviously the way that movies have it played out, but pick any movie you want, whether it's Terminator, Matrix. Like I said, once you give the computers the control, I guess it's just removing that human oversight.
Fair enough, but no, I'm gonna agree. no matter what, you do need a degree of human oversight because while the AIs do get smarter, they can't quite do everything. Jill, what about your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm probably at the furthest end of the spectrum, just given nature of our business, where keywordless search and programs actually work very well for us. Given we're providing a service in a brick and mortar environment, we're actually investing our first dollar into these keywordless programs like Yelp, like local search. And that's actually really effective in getting that one-time car washer, and it's a great source of foot traffic for us. But as I mentioned, while that's great that we can drive that foot traffic, if we're not layering in additional keyword campaigns, we'd really be missing out on reaching ideal customers for our Unlimited Wash Club program. So we need both to be effective, but like I said, I'm probably a little further leaning towards, hey, keywordless actually works well for our business, yet still need to bring in the keyword campaigns just to ensure we've got that human touch and that control.
Makes sense. And I mean, I don't know the exact number of car washes in the country, but I know it's tens of thousands, if not many more than that. And a lot of them are small, independently owned, where this might make sense because it's an overhead saving scenario. But when you get to the large, hundreds of location scenario, it probably isn't the best, which is why kind of in your scenario.
Absolutely. I mean, we're a pretty fragmented industry still in North America. So as the industry matures and evolves, our strategy will need to evolve with it.
Okay. Makes sense. So from my perspective, regrettably, I am quite biased on this one. Not that it's going to get rid of my job because we can't exist without, it can't effectively work without a human intervention at a point. My biggest issue with keywordless programs, especially when we look at the Google smart programs, we look at Yelp's programs in general, is we lose a degree of control because we lose that insight on the view. Some of them are good at reporting the search query reports. We get a little bit of understanding, but especially the newer ones that give such little transparency back, it's really hard to sit there and have a lot of faith in something that's not giving you that type of insight. And that alone makes any marketer nervous when they can't get as much information that they need as possible. So I recognize it for small operations. It has the potential to be a great time saver, especially if you're a flat program that never has peaks or seasonality. And there are some that are like that. But when you get into bigger enterprises, we have a lot more interesting dynamics, especially seasonality, peaks, macroeconomic factors that have to be adjusted for. We want as much control as possible, and the keywords are that. So just tugging along on this one. So let's ignore. So the importance of audiences on a keywordless program. Let's ignore the smart programs because while they're smart, they're smart enough not to give me information. Let's talk about some of the other ones. Your local, your shopping, your discovery, YouTube, Google Display Network, MSAN or Bing's audience network, same as GDN. I'm not sure how big it is abroad. And yeah, they're all keywordless, but they have a variety of targeting capabilities, largely with the audience. Or you can just turn around and do more generic targeting. My question for you is, are you all big on the audiences to operate these, or do you have a different methodology and approach? And Ryan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think it goes back again to the fact that we have multiple brands selling a lot of products that are very similar. So, our audience targeting is where we make our bread and butter. We're heavily reliant on our audiences for YouTube, shopping, and all these different networks. Our brands in most cases aren't the cheapest. So we appeal to like a more, expert level or someone who knows what they're doing in the sports nutrition space. And also some, in most cases, who have a higher household income. So, if we targeted every single person out there for protein shakes, our brands would be bidding against each other. So it'd be a good way to drive up our cost on ourselves. But then we're also not, going to be most likely yielding a high ROAS because customers can only choose one of those brands, right? So if we're not able to control our audience targeting, it would just be, for us, a little bit chaotic because we'd all be competing against each other.
Yeah, so for you, the net audience targeting, without it, you don't have an effective program. You have lost revenue.
Absolutely.
Way of saying that. Okay.
Yep.
How about you, Jill?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we recognize everyone needs a car wash, but we also recognize that everyone's needs at a car wash are very different. Ryan might be a great candidate for our unlimited wash club versus Kathy might be a better one-time wash candidate. So for us, if we can focus those ad dollars of our unlimited wash club on specific audiences, it really makes just more sense for us. We're able to then take a step back and better forecast our funding for just general population and better predict performance. As I mentioned, local helps get people in the door, and that's great for us. It does drive foot traffic. But really, when it comes to those who need more than that one-time wash, they'd be an ideal customer for our unlimited wash club. We need to make sure we can isolate them. We're budgeting for them properly. We're really managing those audiences, and we're ultimately messaging them differently. So I will just iterate for our business, the ability to design those audience segments is incredibly important to our search strategy.
Exactly. So basically, you rely on this when you have to go keyword this. You have to rely on this just to help progress someone through the purchase funnel to help establish what type of long-term customer that they will be, whether it's one and done or whether it's someone that's going to be a monthly subscriber.
Absolutely.
And Kathy, how about you?
Sure. I think given our needs, with the 8 different certifications based on different levels of education and experience levels, I think keywordless really isn't the best option for us unless we can segment out our audiences. I don't want to waste any money showing ads for our senior professional in human resources who's more interested in strategic operations and find out that I'm marketing to the APHRs, the associate professionals in human resources, who really are looking to build their career and need to know the basics. So I don't want to serve ads, to the wrong candidate. Again, just like everyone else has said, we just need to segment our audiences and really understand how to motivate those audiences to take action, which we're not going to do unless we have targeted messaging, which requires targeted audiences.
I mean, that's the reality is, once again, this is a degree of pre-qualification for you. Everyone searches for the same keywords, but not everyone makes a sense. I mean, ultimately, I am in alignment, especially with Kathy on this one. You cannot do keywordless. If you have different tiers of sales or different tiers of products, but they all are the same type of product ultimately, you can't function effectively without some degree of segmentation. And keywordless, if you're forced into it, or do it by choice, the only way you're going to control and make sure you hit that right audience and qualified audience is going with the audience segmentation. Mm-hmm. So net, when we start to come out to the end of this, there is a clear and evident trend that's been present for a number of years now that advertisers are gradually losing control or more control of what they can ever see in search, between smart, keywordless, the shifts to DSA, the shift to RSA, smart campaigns, the news program that's being pushed, Performance Max, looking at local, all that. We have seen more and more of a trend to this. The question is, keywords won't be gone tomorrow, but are you prepared for when they do go away? Do you have your ducks in a row, or are you in full alignment that you have your audience segmentation ready to go to be able to go to that keywordless function? And the question is, why aren't you already doing it now? It makes sense for a lot of advertisers to still use an audience segmentation and messaging. We use it constantly for repeat visitors on remarketing to show what we can upsell them to, or we use for cart banners that come back. We go back and serve them different messaging and then give them an incentivization to come back. So the audiences are there and they're present. They're incredibly important. And at this day and age, they are coming to be what the negative keywords were of yesteryear. The most important part of targeting within it coming up against your keywords. So our stance, it sounds collectively, is make sure you know how an audiences work, make sure you're functioning, and make sure they're using it on your current programs, whether it's keywordless or not. So that concludes our panel. I know there may be some questions, so I'll open it up to the audience. If there's any questions, feel free to add them in. And it doesn't look like there are any. So if there's no questions, then I thank you all for attending our session. I hope some of you all found it informative. If you have any questions down the road, please reach out to Aaron at Digimarcon, who can pass it on to us. Otherwise, have a great day, everyone, and thank you, Kathy, Ryan, and Jill, for joining so early in the morning.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you,
Yes, thanks
everyone.
for having us.
Thank you. All right, Aaron, take it away.